It is Mock Draft Monday, and we are trading up. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right. Thanks for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. What's up, everybody? This is Jake Arthur and Zach Hicks of horseshoehuddle.com. And it is Monday, so that means we are mock drafting again. And with just a couple weeks until the draft, we're going to start to throw some wrinkles into this thing to try and cover all bases. And today we are mandating that we have to trade up in the first round. So that's going to kind of obviously cost us some of our later picks, but we'll explain further once we get there. So I'll go ahead and unveil the red carpet to you, Zach. So first round, Colts obviously sitting at pick 15. What are you thinking are some areas they might be able to strike ahead of them?
Yeah, so I think when you're looking at a potential trade up in this draft, like I don't think there's going to be this big trade up to number 4 or number 5 overall for a certain wide receiver prospect that everyone wants the Colts to move up for. But I do think if the Colts are going to make any type of move to trade up in round 1, it would be to around either 9, 10, or 11. I think 9 with the Bears, 10 with the Jets, or 11 with the Vikings, Cardinals, whoever that's going to be. I do think that those are your likely destinations there, because obviously you don't want to go up like 1 or 2 spots. You're not really gaining much there and giving up extra picks for it. But you don't want to go up too far. You're giving up extra first rounders and stuff like that. So I think that's the sweet spot if a player they like falls there, but they don't think that player is going to be there at 15. So realistically, who are those players going to be? I narrowed it down to a couple. And the player I went with in this mock, and I moved up to number 9. So I moved up to number 9 with the Chicago Bears, and I traded my 15th overall pick in 2/3. So next year's third and this year's third. I'm not going to be too specific with the trade because obviously it could be a lot more than that. Come realistically, I just that's close enough in value for this exercise. But I moved up to 9 with the Bears, gave them some more capital, gave up a top 100 pick in that third rounder, and took wide receiver Rome Odunze from Washington. Odunze might be the cleanest prospect in this entire class. I mean, when you look at the testing, the production, the way he won in college, the tenacity and the way that he plays the game, everything about his game just says safe player with high upside. Because again, he's got the athletic upside to be fantastic in the NFL. Like, this isn't a player where, I'm looking at him being like a high floor type guy only. He can be a really good wide receiver 1 in football, but you're already going to get someone who's going to be productive because of all the intangibles he brings. Big time leader there at Washington, highly productive in one of the most efficient offenses in the entire college football landscape. He did it for years there, was the alpha dog in that offense. And he can win in multiple ways. You can win in contested catch. He can win by separating. He can win with his body control and smoothness. Just a really, really good player. And if he happens to fall to 9, the Bears only have 4 picks in this class, or 5 picks in this class after the first overall selection. They probably want to retool and get a couple more selections later in the draft. This is a really prime opportunity for the Colts to move up ahead of the Jets, who are kind of going all in with Aaron Rodgers, and get another playmaker for this offense. So I think Rome Odunze is a great fit in Indy. I think he fits a lot of what Chris Ballard likes. He's built a Ballard wide receiver 1 this year. And I think that's kind of everything this team is looking for. So Rome Odunze, I moved up to number 9, gave up 1582 in next year's third to Chicago to get Rome Odunze. And honestly, look, if the Colts did this come draft day, I'd be pretty happy with it, because I'm a big fan of Odunze. I think he can be a legit game changer for this offense. But what do you got, Jake? Who are you moving up for, and where are you moving to?
Yeah, I like that pick for you. I think that's one of the sweet spots. I don't think they're going up top 5 or anything, but around that 9 to 12 region seems like a good spot. Chicago, a team that obviously might want to move back. So I'm getting a little chaotic with it. So mine is like a trade within a trade. So I have the Vikings going from 11 up to with Arizona. They're in the top 5. So it's going to be Arizona sitting at 11, and then I have the Colts going up to 11 because I think Arizona is going to try to gather assets like we know Monty Ossenford is interested in doing. So the Colts up to 11 from 15 with Arizona by way of Minnesota, and they're going to get Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. So just like you with Odunze, I think there is just this small core of players. This is a good draft to have some actual elite players in it. And Odunze, I think, is one of those players that would be worthy of trading up for, especially considering you could probably get him near that bottom of the top 10. But with Bowers, I think that's another player that makes so much sense for the Colts that it's like it's one of those ones you run the card up. You look at Odunze, Bowers, Quinion Mitchell, Dallas Turner, all these guys fit so well that it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah,
So
I
with
think
Bowers,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think when it comes to Chris Ballard's philosophy, I think if he's going to make a trade up, it's going to be for either an impact pass rusher or an impact pass catcher for his team. Or I don't think it would be for anything else. So like Quinion, I don't think he'd trade up for, but I think the three guys you're looking at, if the Colts do trade up, are Dallas Turner, Brock Bowers, and then Rome Odunze. I mean, again, if Marvin Harrison falls to like 7 or 8,
right.
Sure, you could see that. But I do think those are the big three that we're looking at. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I thought you were taking a break there, but
Oh, no, you're good now.
I just want to say that like Dallas Turner is definitely in the mix here if the Colts do trade up.
That fits because in this tenure, there's been a couple guys I know of before they strongly considered moving up for, and they were of those positions. So that I think you nailed that there. But we've talked about getting explosive on offense all off season. Obviously, Chris has talked about it. Shane have talked about it, but I don't think that has to be at receiver. I think if you add someone so dynamic with the ability to stretch the field and create yak from the tight end position, where you can also move them all around the lineup, I think that makes all the sense in the world. He's another good kid. You don't have to worry about if you trade up. You obviously want to make sure it's someone who has a good head on their shoulders. No concerns there. I think doing this is a wise investment. And you mentioned your trade capital as well. So I gave up the 3rd this year and a 5th. That's what the trade draft value calculator says is best. So I think that could be done for moving up from 15 to 11 for a 3rd and a 5th this year is probably doable.
Yeah, I think there was a comparable trade about 2 years ago. I want to say it was the Chris Olave trade with the Saints and the Commanders. I think the Commanders went from 11 to 16. The Saints came up to 11, and it cost them a 3rd and a 4th. So I think that's exactly what the trade value would be. It would be like a 3rd and a 5th, maybe a 3rd and a 4th, depending on who's there. But yeah, those are some options for the Colts there. Like, unfortunately, you have to give up a top 100 pick in a draft where you need some day one impact guys, but you know, is the difference between a Rome Odunze / Brock Bowers type of player so much bigger than a Brian Thomas player or a Quinion Mitchell or whoever could be there at 15 that it's worth giving up a potential other starter by giving up 82? That's something that we're going to throw to you guys there in the comment section. Let us know. Would you rather trade up to 9, 10, or 11, sacrifice that other top 100 pick, but to get a guy like a Bowers or Dallas Turner or a Rome Odunze compared to just taking a Brian Thomas at 15 and rolling from there? I think that's a really great debate. And it's a debate that the Colts are probably having right now.
Yeah. And I think another part of it that makes this so realistic is you just did a show about it. We've talked about it recently. You know, their actions in free agency show that they're putting a lot on Anthony Richardson this year. And what better can they do than to go up and lock up someone to support him long term? Yeah. You know, a tight end like that has always been a quarterback's best friend. You know, you already have a Michael Pittman Jr. who has been reliable no matter who is the quarterback. But a Rome Odunze, a guy to even go further than that, and you have 2 guys long term who can have that big of an impact. That is really doing well by your young, hopefully franchise quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. But coming up, guys, we're going to transition and talk about round 2. We actually still have our round 2 picks, but you know, we're going to talk about who we selected there and which direction we went with less stuff in our cabinet here to choose from.
Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful because you're going there to have fun. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. And let's face it, no matter what the event is, Indy is a destination. Today, there was a freaking eclipse. Science put on that show today, and everybody in the country was here. So whether it's something like that or something you can actually buy tickets to, Gametime has got you covered. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, all set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone too, so you don't have to dig through your email on your phone. You got a bunch of impatient drunk people behind you in line. That's not a good time. So snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, so we are going into round 2 because we still have those picks. So that's pretty nice. That's got to make you feel great, right? You go up, you trade up just a few picks and get elite level players, and you still have in the second round. This is a pretty good draft where you're going to have capable first round players potentially available to you here in the top 50. So with that in mind, you crossed a big need off the list already. What do you got for us in round 2?
Yeah, before I make my selection here, if we were really doing a Chris Ballard type mock draft, there is no chance whatsoever they'd be picking at 46 after trading up in round 1.
No. You're going back.
They're going back to to 65 or something and picking up another third. There's no chance that 46 is where they're picking if they move up in the first. He likes those picks. If he'll trade up every now and then, but if he trades up once, he needs to counteract it by trading back like 10 other times to make sure he's still getting his picks later in the draft. So look, realistically, we wouldn't be picking at 46. We stuck at 46 for this draft because we just didn't want to get too complicated with it. And I think this is a fascinating thing after the trade up because we only have one more top 100 pick left. And we have needs to address on defense. This defense that was not great last year. So do you go safety? Do you go corner? Do you go pass rusher? Personally, I went with safety. I went with Jaden Hicks, safety from Washington State, a guy who I think can play some single high, can play in the box. He can, really good at running the alley, physical player, former cornerback too. So he can, come down and cover some tight ends. And I think just pairing him with a guy like Julian Blackmon is a smart move for your secondary because you're adding 2 physical players that know how to tackle, that are comfortable playing either free or strong. So it adds multiplicity to your defense and complexity. You can do a lot of pre-snap stuff and hide those guys. And then it opens up, maybe Nick Cross to playing some more sub linebacker, playing some more rotational type stuff in the back end. If you want to take Julian Blackmon out and have Hicks play some strong safety, and you can put Nick Cross back at free, you can do a lot of interesting things with them. Now, I know this kind of makes you a little bit redundant with a lot of guys who, like Hicks is not like this pure free safety. He can play some strong. He can play in the box as well. So it makes you a little redundant having a lot of guys like that. But having a couple of safeties who are big, athletic, fast, and can run defend at a high level, I think that's just a great thing to have in today's NFL defense. So Jaden Hicks, safety from Washington State, is a guy I'm really high on. I really like his fit in this Colts defense. And look, in a class that doesn't have many free safeties, I think Hicks has some of the better instincts in this class. So I'm willing to bet on that upside and that physicality with him to play over the top in this Colts defense. So Jaden Hicks, safety from Washington State, maybe a little bit of a reach here at 46, but I'm a big fan of his game. And I think he can be a really good long-term starter in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I like it. And, like you mentioned, when you have those guys that can wear a lot of hats and they can blur those lines, you don't have to have as defined roles. Like you don't have to have a pure free safety or strong, because you have 2 reliable guys that can kind of do both. So I like that. I'm going to go with a guy at corner who can bring some of those similar aspects. And I am cheating. It's cheap a little bit because you picked him last week, I believe, but Max Melton from Rutgers, the corner. Knowing that you don't have a 3rd-round pick in this, you got to get someone who can play a role early for you. Again, this is a guy who some project to nickel. He plays outside as well, very athletic guy. He has passed all the tests athletically and performance-wise at the Senior Bowl. He fits the Colts very well. So you just got to do more to that. The Colts added Julian Blackmon at safety. That was great. You need another body there, but they haven't done anything to corner except for bring back their oldest player this offseason. And that's a player you need. Kenny Moore is critical to the secondary, but you need a little more. and I don't think you can wait until day 3 to do it. So I like this here. We both brought in a couple versatile pieces at each portion of the defensive backfield.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about Max Melton, and I think I mentioned this last time we did Mock Draft Monday, is I think he can play some inside, he can play some outside as well. So again, it's a guy who can wear multiple hats for your defense. And say he gets beat out in camp by Jalen Jones, who's going into year 2 in this system, has that inside track. Maybe Jalen Jones is your starter. Maybe Dallas Flowers even beats him out. Well, Max Melton's a 4-3 type guy who can play some great gunner for your team. So again, he's a guy who can wear multiple hats, who can do multiple things for you. And I think that's very valuable on day 2 of the NFL draft, especially in this draft where I don't think day 2 and day 3 are fantastically strong. Getting a guy like Melton, I think, who can do multiple things for you is a big pick there in the top 50. But again, Jake, I do want to mention before we go into our third segment where we talk about, some of our options on day 3, I think we're both sitting here loving what we got in round 1 and being happy with what we got in round 2. But I feel like we're both going into this with oh crap, I didn't take a corner. Right. I don't have a corner. How did I not take a corner in the top 50 when the Colts desperately need a corner? Mm-hmm. Or, oh man, I didn't take a pass rusher when, again, we know Kwity and Dio Dambo could be free agents after the season. Probably need a pass rusher. And then for you, vice versa, you're sitting there and being like, I didn't take a safety when Ronnie Thomas might have to start again next year. So this is the kind of push-pull when you trade up in the first round, is you lose that flexibility of your top 100 picks to where
and when you don't supplement in free agency.
Right. Well, that's another discussion. That's a good point. That's a good point there, Jake. But yeah, when you don't use free agency and then when you trade up and don't have enough picks, you have too many holes to plug them all. It's great to plug that one hole in that first round with an elite player, but can you plug all the little holes that are around when you don't have multiple top 100 picks? We're going to talk about it in our next segment, but man, when you look at it, it's a little bleak. Oh man, I really wish I could have got some more. Maybe I trade some more next year picks to move up and not care about the future there.
Yeah, for me, when I was looking at this and knowing what I did in the first round, getting a pass catcher, I knew I didn't have to get a receiver, even though that's been a really hot target. I knew I got that explosive pass catcher. So my next thing was, what defensive back do I get? Because I have to, even though I know edge is such a strong possibility in these first couple days, I kind of flirted with that as well. I'm going to kick that can down the road, which we'll kind of get to a little bit. But yeah, I thought getting a versatile defensive back was critical on day 2 when you've given up that third round pick. And again, in real life, the Colts would recoup that somehow. But
yes,
we here are about adapting and being chameleons and being versatile ourselves. So this is what we bring you.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Now, coming up, guys, we're going to talk about some day 3 options to supplement what we took already. Because again, we have holes still on the roster. So we need to look at day 3 long and hard here and try to figure out how we can still fix some of these holes with some options that might be there come actual draft day. But first, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's the first thing you do if you had an extra hour in your day? Would you go for a run? Would you take a nap? Yes, I would. I would definitely take a nap. Would you read a book? Would you show up for a friend? A lot of us spend our lives wishing we had more time. The question is, time for what? If time was unlimited, how would you use it? The best way to squeeze that special thing into your schedule is to know what's important to you and make it a priority. Therapy can help you find what matters to you so you can do more of it. I think I speak for a lot of the guys listening to this podcast that when with work and with everything going on, you want to spend more time with your family. You want to spend more time with your family. Obviously, you want to work and get as much money as you can, but you want to spend more time with your family. Something like BetterHelp and therapy can help you really wind down and figure out why those things are important to you, why you want to spend more time with your family, and how to make more time for things like your family and your home life. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, Jake. So I did my homework. I grabbed a couple of day 3 guys for us at some of the positions that we lacked in those first one there. And I made sure to fill out some for you too, just so you have, a couple names in front of you.
I never was good about getting to my homework. So that's good that you did that for me.
You know what? I think you knew most of these players, luckily. I think
Yeah.
I think I only surprised you with one, and I know you're going to throw in some other receivers that you like because you love a couple of the dudes that I didn't put there. But starting with me, I'm looking at the guys I took. I took a wide receiver, I took a safety. That's 2 of the 4 needs I think the Colts need to address in this draft. But I'm struggling at corner. I'm struggling at defensive end. So a couple names I listed here. I think one is a big time sleeper that I actually did in my Horseshoe Huddle mock draft today. I think I took him in round 5 for the Colts in my Horseshoe Huddle one. Chigozie Anusium, cornerback from Colorado State, Shrine Bowl standout, ran a 4.3 this offseason, really long, physical corner. I think he's the best tackling cornerback in all of college football this past year. Like really, really good tackler. Can maybe even play some safety if you need him to, but I just want to add more competition to that cornerback room. And Anusium is the type of guy where I know I'm getting good run defense from the start. I know I'm getting a guy who can flip and drop into zone coverage, especially in this cover 3 scheme. And I just want more steady play behind the starters. Another corner I put on here, Elijah Jones, cornerback from Boston College, player who's really used to that single high type scheme that Boston College runs. Now they run a little bit more press man there, but Elijah Jones is a guy who's used to cover 1, cover 3 type scheme. Stood out the Senior Bowl, had a good week there. I think he's like a 6-year guy too, so he's really experienced, played a lot of football. Got better every single year, and this past year was just fantastic for him at Boston College. So he was billed a Ballard cornerback 1. Looks like he's going to be there on day 3 come draft day because of, again, just his age and his little bit slighter frame. But he's a guy who fits everything there for the Colts. So look, all is not lost if the Colts don't take a corner in the top 100. It's a little bleak, but I don't think it's all lost there. There are a couple guys I like, and Anusium and Jones are 2 of my guys there on day 3 for the Colts.
I did the mute thing again. That is a problem that has plagued Locked On Colts for the last week. Okay. So, yeah, I think if you don't take that corner early, you can absolutely double dip later on, because especially with how well they did picking guys last year, I think it could work out pretty well if you took a couple again. So that's good. So I'll start out with the guy who you brought to my attention today, Air Force safety Trey Taylor. This guy looks pretty impressive. I believe he was a Shrine Bowl standout as well. He's got decent size. He's not too tall. He's not too short. Like, he's perfectly compact for what I like in a physical safety, right around that 5'11", 6 foot mark, around 200 pounds. This dude, big time workout guy. He wears multiple hats. So you can move him around the secondary, and he's very, very athletic. So you're probably not injecting that guy into your defense right away, but it looks like he's definitely got the smarts and the tools to fit in and gradually earn a little bit of playing time. Definitely seems like a special team standout for Brian Mason.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Trey Taylor was also the Thorpe Award winner last year for the best safety in all of college football. So,
and being from Air Force and earning that award, that to me, that's a big deal. Like that stands out quite a bit, because you're used to that going to someone from Alabama or LSU. It went to someone from Air Force. So another guy who a lot of people do know about, and this guy would endear himself to Colts fans big time, Malik Mustafa from Wake Forest. So this guy cleans up all the dirt in front of him. Like, this is a guy within the box, everything that's going to happen in front of him, screen passes, runs to the outside, whatever, the dude is trying to remove you from the football and trying to kill the play no matter what. So think of what Kari Willis used to do, coming up and slamming guys up, in the box and everything. I get those vibes from him. I really like what he brings to the table. And then offensive side of the ball, Bub Means is your guy, and I'll let you talk more about him, because I know that's your day 3 receiver. But Luke McCaffrey has been really hot lately, and I'm almost curious if he is going to be there on day 3. NFL circles really, really like him. I would not be surprised if he's a round 3 guy. Obviously, the bloodlines, Ed McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey, yes. But the dude is athletic. He had a strong showing at the Senior Bowl. Former quarterback, so you kind of get both sides of the coin there from a receiver perspective. But he's a guy who has quietly boosted his stock quite a bit as well. I listened to the Move the Sticks podcast with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks a lot, and they're really high on him as well. And those are 2 guys who are very plugged into what the NFL likes. So that's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. I think he fits the Colts really well. We just don't talk about him a lot.
Yeah. No, I think McCaffrey, he doesn't really hit the explosive metrics that the Colts look for at wide receiver, but man, Chris Ballard loves himself a position change player. He loves them
Yeah.
so much. I really want to pick his brain about it one day. Like, why do you take these guys who change positions? Next time you talk to him, you should ask him
ascending player. That's why he
Yeah.
says he wants to get guys who are still developing in that position. Like that,
Yeah.
to me, that says the ascending player. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk to him before the draft.
Yeah. And I think that's just a big thing for him. And then Bub Means, it's not that I love him particularly on film. I just love what he could be with his potential, and I think he can be a fantastic gunner too. I'm always looking for gunners at wide receiver, the Ashton Doolin type mold, and I think Bub Means is one of those guys in this class. And then also two other names I put here for defensive end / 3 tech. Because again, we're looking at pass rushers, we're looking at potential Kwity Paye replacements or potential Dio Dengbo replacements. We don't know if they're both going to be here post 2025. I mean, we don't want to tell Kenan that, but we don't we don't know if these guys are going to be here post 2025. But Jalix Hunt, defensive end from Houston Christian, is a guy that we've talked about a lot on here. Speaking of position change players, I want to say Jalix Hunt was a safety when he went into college.
God, I love that. That is so
down.
EJ Speed of him. I love it.
Right. All right. And we're talking about a guy with like 35-inch arms, 260 pounds, like really, really big, sturdy defensive end. And look, his film is not perfect. There's some room to improve, but it's that project type player. It's that Isaiah Land. Isaiah Land was like that too. And the Colts are really high on Isaiah Land. Titus Leo was like that too.
Mm-hmm.
And the Colts are very high on Titus Leo. So it just looks like another type of guy that could add to the mix there. And then if you're looking for more of that Dio Dengbo type mold, that outside rusher that can move inside, John Marie Cromoa, or I think it's Chroma from James Madison, super, super long arms, like almost Dio Dengbo long arms. Like I think they're nearly 36 inches. Really good explosive metrics, really good pre-draft testing. Did a lot of good things there. James Madison, very productive as well. Just another player there on day 3. And obviously we could throw out a lot more defensive tackle types too, like Miles Cole from Texas Tech. We've talked about a ton on here. He makes a lot of sense on day 3. I know if we're going back to wide receiver, Jake has a wide receiver crush that he's had since the Senior Bowl, and Ryan Flournoy.
Yes.
That's his guy right there. And he reminds me a lot of Ashton Doolin. I think when you look at the production, you look at the pre-draft testing and the size, very, very Ashton Doolin. So the Colts.
And you wrote about him today. Check horseshoehuddle.com.
There we go. Good shout out there, Jake. So you guys can check horseshoehuddle.com for that as well. But yeah, there's a lot of options the Colts could go with here on day 3. But I do want to get your guys' thoughts here where, if the Colts were to trade up in round 1 and lose that top 100 pick, and you're looking at some of these names that we threw out here, would you be okay with these names being your options to fill in the spots? I mean, obviously the Colts might have to go back to free agency, which we don't know if they actually would do that in real life, but they might have to go back to free agency because in Jake's scenario, you don't really have another safety. You have Nick Cross and Rodney Thomas try to get free safety. In my scenario, we got Jalen Jones and Dallas Flowers battling out for starting corner again. Is that okay? Like, is that sacrifice okay to have Rome Odunze or to have Brock Bowers or to have Dallas Turner? Is that sacrifice okay? We're leaving that to you guys in the comment section. Let us know, because I think it's a really interesting debate because they need bodies at corner and safety. But look, it's Rome Odunze, it's Brock Bowers, it's Dallas Turner. Like I understand wanting to go up there and get those guys.
Yeah, that is a very that is just because I don't know. People get so upset by the results of mock drafts, even after the first couple rounds. And I mean, honestly, us too. I mean, you go on the mock draft simulators and some of the things that are still available there to you. It's tough, but no, I do think the Colts probably regardless will go back to the well on free agency and do something. Like, even if they do address a couple positions, I think they'll make a couple modest moves. Just because I think that's just something that is in Ballard's track record. But no, it's tough. That really gets me thinking, because to them, those are blue chip players worth sacrificing a little bit of draft capital for. But I mean, I am, for this purpose, interested in hearing what the fans have to say, because Brock Bowers, I think you do that. I think it's worth it. Rome Odunze as well, especially like you mentioned how clean he is. You're not going to go up high enough for Marvin Harrison, and Odunze is just he's the safest. He has the least concerns of that little chunk. So I agree. To me, I think it's worth it. And the Colts, they would be like, see, we did take a swing. Can you guys shut up now? So that'd be good to see.
Yeah, we might get Sassy Ballard in the post draft if
you love
that
a good
happens.
Sassy Ballard session. That's always a good one.
Oh, yeah. It's always fun there. Before we get out of here, though, guys, I do want to remind you that the Indie Draft Guides pre-orders are still open, and soon those pre-orders will turn into just orders because the Indie Draft Guide should be out this week. Keep an eye on your email if you've already ordered the Indie Draft Guide, which should be releasing this week. We're just finalizing it, putting some, what is it, dotting some T's and slashing some I's. That's what we're doing here, guys. But make sure you guys are ordering that Indie Draft Guide if you haven't already. You get access to an essential piece of reading for Colts fans, both before and after the draft, featuring 225 in-depth scouting reports, features, which are the whole in-depth Build a Ballard series and much more. Click the link in our show notes to pre-order today. And if you guys don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on Twitter. Also subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.